What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Neighborhood Podcast. One of the hosts of the podcast. My name is Kyle Dabra.
What's going on, everybody? Other half of the podcast, Kevin Valentin here. Kyle, happy Thursday. What it do, bro?
Chilling, bro. Oh, Kevin, I did forget to tell you. This is our 50th episode on the podcast. It's been 6 months. Bro, I have no idea where that time went. It just flew by.
I mean, time flies when you're having fun is the saying, right? And I know that we both enjoy doing this and we've explained it several times why we do it, but damn, 50 episodes, I'm hyped.
Bro, we halfway to 100.
Oh, yeah.
Halfway. So, you ready to hit these topics?
Fuck yeah.
All right, let's dive into it. So, most of this is going to revolve around the week 4 games that we have set up for this Sunday in the NFL. So we'll go over a couple in particular. We have a lot of featured games this upcoming weekend. Probably the biggest one that we'll start off with is going to be the Patriots and the Bucks. This is obviously probably one of the biggest matchups we'll see throughout the entire season. This is the matchup where we get to see Brady face off against Belichick for the first time. And then we'll dive into our analysis and our prediction for that game. After the Patriots and Bucks game, we'll dive into a huge NFC West game that's going to take place between the Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Rams. We'll just talk about the star-studded quarterback matchup this is going to be between Matt Stafford and Kyler Murray. We'll talk about which quarterback has been more impressive so far to start the season, and then we'll dive into our preview and prediction of that game as well. We'll transition to another NFC matchup that's going to feature the Carolina Panthers and the Dallas Cowboys. Both teams have been playing pretty well so far. Carolina's currently 3-0, and the Cowboys are currently 2-1 after they just had a huge beatdown against the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football. We'll talk about, is Carolina legit at 3-0, or is their record kind of overhyped? And then we'll dive into the analysis and prediction like the last two games. And then the last game that we'll dive into for the NFL in week 4 is going to be the Baltimore Ravens versus the Denver Broncos. Kind of similar to Carolina in the sense Denver has been impressive. They are currently sitting at 3-0, but they have kind of played some subpar teams. And we'll talk about whether or not that this is essentially a statement game that the Broncos can make against a legitimate battle tested team in the Ravens. That'll be a fun topic to go over. And then to round out the episode, we'll talk about the impressive record setting win streak that the St. Louis Cardinals went on in the last 3 weeks or so. They won 17 consecutive games. They had that win streak snapped just a few nights ago against the Milwaukee Brewers. And we'll just
I think it was
dive.
last night.
Yeah, but they've been impressive. The only reason why I said that is because when this gets uploaded, it'll be Friday.
Yeah. Right.
So,
Yeah, you're not wrong.
but still, I mean, it's extremely impressive. This is the biggest win streak that the MLB has seen since the Cleveland Indians won 22 straight back in 2017. We'll just talk about just how incredible of a run it was because they were kind of out of the playoff race just a month ago, and they have found their way into an NL wild card spot, and I think it's worthy of discussing to round out the episode. But that's the agenda for what we have for you guys today. Like I said at the top, we're going to dive into this Patriots and Bucks matchup that's going to take place this weekend. Obviously, this is a huge matchup that's going to feature Tom Brady going up against his old coach in Bill Belichick. So, Kevin, I'll keep this question to you to kind of start it off. What does this game symbolize to you, this matchup between Tom Brady and Bill Belichick for the first time going against each other, opponent versus opponent?
I mean, it's really weird because obviously when you hear the two names, you think of the same thing. You think of winning. You think of championships. You think of the best quarterback coach tandem in NFL history. Arguably one of the best coach player relationships outside of Phil Jackson and Michael, Phil Jackson and Kobe and Shaq. You know what I'm saying? Like outside of those very few championship pedigree players, it's going to be weird to see them kind of go up against one another for the first time. I know that a lot of people have said, well, Brett was able to go back to Green Bay just fine. Well, Brett didn't have one coach. Brett didn't win 6 Super Bowls. You know what I'm saying? It's just different. I think it's going to be a game for the history books, not only because it's Brady's first time back playing in Foxborough for the first time not in a Patriots uniform. So it's going to be something we've never seen before. It's going to be something that is going to be almost unsettling for Patriot fans. I know that I can't speak for them, Kyle. I know that you're going to have your own take on this as well. But just, it's really hard to put into words. And, obviously you got to have respect for probably, if not arguably, the greatest coach. And there's no argument that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. But to see Brady suit up against his former coach, the guys that came together to win 6 Super Bowls in New England, to go to 9 together as a whole, is just absolutely unheard of, practically. I mean, well, actually, no, they've gone to 10 together,
No, they've
right?
gone to nine. They went to 9. Brady's been to 10. He went
Oh,
to his
right,
10th
right,
one
right, right.
with the
I
Tampa
wasn't doing
last year.
math right because he has 3 losses, 2 Giants, 1 Philly. All right. Sorry guys, I had a brain fart. But I am excited to see the matchup. We all know Bill Belichick for the defensive-minded coach that he is. Obviously, he's going to know all of Tom's tendencies, all of his checkdowns, his reads, his mannerisms. His poisonous in the pocket. He's going to know when to send blitzers and rushers. But I do know that New England has been struggling. Again, I'll let Kyle do kind of like a deeper analysis in terms of as to how he believes New England's going to come about this whole situation. But from my perspective, I'm excited to see how Tom goes at Bill's defense, and I'm excited to see how Bill prepares for Tom and the Bucs offense. Antonio Brown is back, so that is another additional weapon on this roster that is going to be active and ready to go. And Bill Belichick knows that he is going up against his former wingmate. I can't even say protege because, without one and the other, I don't know if New England wins as many as they do. So, definitely, super excited for this Sunday night game. I think it's probably going to be one of the best games of the year. Brady, the phrase, I was telling Kyle this yesterday when we were recording our segment for the Jags. The phrase chip on your shoulder does not describe the accuracy of the emotional tension that's going to be in Foxborough tomorrow night. Or excuse me, Sunday night. Like, some people are just mad when they go to a different team or when a team didn't fight to retain them. No. Tom definitely has this massive boulder sitting over his shoulder saying, I'm going to prove you wrong as to why you didn't keep me. I'm literally going to shove this Super Bowl winning team down your throat. And whether that's animosity or that's just him being Tom with his, mannerisms and his emotions, Tom's coming in this game 150% dialed in and with 100% extra intensity, because if anything is on his calendar when he signed with Tampa this last season and the schedule came out for this year, you circle Foxborough. And he rightfully has every fucking reason to be. Because, man, Kyle, I'm passing the ball to you, bro. What the hell do you think is about to happen on Sunday night, bro? I'm so curious to hear your take.
Look, I mean, as the Patriot fan here, I think it's just gonna be weird at first because when you spend literally 2 decades as a player coach combo, and to see the amount of success that they were able to attain within that time frame, nobody's going to be able to replicate that type of success in NFL history. It's never going to happen again, and it was going to come to an end at one point or another, but it took place when it took place. So, like, when I look at this matchup between Brady and Belichick, I think it would have been a lot more different had Brady not won the Super Bowl last year. Because the narrative that was kind of surrounding these two is like, who was more successful for the success that the Patriots had over that 20-year span? Was it Brady or was it Belichick? And essentially what has happened is that narrative kind of went out the window after Brady won the Super Bowl with the Bucs last year when they beat the Chiefs. So when I look at the situation now, it's clear as day to me that Brady was largely responsible for getting this team, speaking about the Patriots, to the success that they had. But Belichick was the orchestrator of it all. It's just, I don't know if, like you mentioned, that if you have Brady out of the lineup or if you have somebody else with Belichick as the coach, I don't know if the Patriots attained the success that they had with Brady if they had somebody else. I think they still would have been successful to a certain extent, but not nearly as much as Brady. So, when this matchup takes place on Sunday night, I think there's just going to be a lot of tension that's going to be brought up about the fact that, Belichick forced Brady out the door, too early. even though that I don't necessarily agree with that narrative that the media is kind of essentially baked at this point. But I think, like you mentioned, I think this is going to be a game where I think Tom's going to have a chip on his shoulder. Belichick's going to know what most Brady's going to go with, because a lot of the plays that the Bucks run are very similar in nature to what the Patriots were running for a very long time. So this is going to be a scenario where it's kind of a battle of the same offense to a certain extent. Like, Brady knows what Belichick's going to do as far as like the setup with what New England's going to run as the offense, but Belichick's going to know what Brady's going to run, because a lot of the plays are very similar, and he's going to know the calls and the audibles that Brady makes at the line of scrimmage before the ball gets snapped. So it's going to be a fun game. I look really forward to this matchup on Sunday night. I mean, it's a little bit bittersweet for me just because I think before the game, I think it's going to hit Tom a little bit. But I think once the game takes place and once, they're into the game, Brady's just going to be locked in. But I do think that he's going to feel the emotion of that stadium before the game gets started. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to feel it a little bit. And it's understandable. I mean, the guy was with that team for 20 years. Granted, whatever went down between Belichick and Brady, it's in the past, but I imagine that both of them can reflect back on just the tenure that they had together and the amount of success that they were able to achieve. It's unbelievable. And nobody's going to be able to achieve that type of success ever again. So, at the end of the day, I think there's still mutual respect for what they were able to do. And I think that's what's going to kind of carry out, even despite what's going to happen in this game on Sunday night.
Bro, I can't imagine Bill being so prepared to where it limits Tom in this offense. I just don't see it happening. And I honestly don't think it has much to do with the fact that you guys just aren't playing well this season. I just think Bruce Arians might dial something special. I mean, I don't know. I think Tom's going to be a little bit more equipped because he did play with some of the people on this roster. He does know the tendencies of what defenses Bill likes to call. This is a whole new team for Bill to try and prepare for. Bruce Arians is a different mind. For once, this isn't a Bill Belichick disciple. There really isn't something that you can say, well, I taught him that, or this comes from my playbook back in the 80s and the 90s. I just genuinely think that I think Tom's going to mop the floor with you guys. And I know that I have a different animosity / hatred toward the Patriots, but I obviously dislike both people in this party, both Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. I just want to see a good football game, but I really think that Tom's going to dial it up. And I know that we're not on the prediction segment just yet, but I feel like I'm probably starting it off right now.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that this is going to be a two-possession game, maybe 10 to 14 points. I don't know if the New England home crowd really kind of gets to Tom early or if you guys can finally get some pressure to him, because we all know Atlanta was able to get some pressure last week, 2 weeks ago. The Rams were able to get to Tom as well. So if Judon and those boys can find a way to get to Tom and rattle him early, who knows if that combined feeling with everything going around him can kind of get him rattled. So I definitely think that Tom still comes out there, and I think that the Bucks do win by about 10 or 14 points.
Yeah, I think when I look at this matchup, I got the Bucks winning this one. Simply just because I know it's kind of tough for me to say that, but
I know.
when I look at the X's and O's of this game, I mean, it's pretty apparent to me that the Bucks offense have a huge advantage. I mean, they get Antonio Brown back off of the COVID list. You got to deal with Chris Godwin, Rob Gronkowski, Mike Evans, and then you got to deal with Giovanni Bernard and Leonard Fournette as well in the backfield.
Is
So
Rojo out?
no, he's in, but they just haven't been able to really run the ball as much as I thought that they would at the beginning of the year. But really, kind of the feature
Word.
backs that I've seen so far have been Gio and Leonard Fournette so far. I mean, when it comes to New England's defense, that's a tall task, and I
Yeah.
do think that New England, if they had Stephon Gilmore in this game, I think they would be able to match up
Whole
a
different
little bit
story.
better. But with Stephon Gilmore out for the foreseeable future, he's still on the, I believe he's on the PUP list. Look, J.C. Jackson's going to be either matched up on Mike Evans or Chris Godwin or maybe even AB. But when I look at the matchup, I mean, who's going to guard Gronk? Gronk's going to be running down the seam half the time, and he's going to be able to find some soft spots in that Patriots defense. Granted, the Patriots defense, they have Dante Hightower, they have Josh Uche. Those guys are not bad, but when it comes to coverage guys, it's going to be tricky. They could bring a safety down to help cover Gronk, but there's just so much firepower on that offense for the Bucs. I just don't think that Patriots defense is going to be able to contain them. And then to kind of flip it, the Patriots offense is going up against the Bucs defense. And the Bucs secondary in particular has been suspect so far. They have been giving up a lot of points this year. The Bucs front seven is solid. It's one of the best front sevens in the league. But really the adjustment that a lot of teams have made against the Bucs is to just constantly throw against them. We saw that against Dallas. We saw that against Atlanta. We saw that against the Rams last week. And by and large, all three quarterbacks that Tampa's defense has faced, they have been largely successful against Tampa's secondary. So I think if you're looking at this from the Patriots offensive perspective, they're going to throw the ball a lot. I don't think this is going to be a game where you just run the ball 20, 25 times with Damian Harris. This is probably a game where Mac Jones is going to throw the ball potentially 40 times. And I think that's just what the defense is going to give them. So they're going to respect the pass rush that the Buccaneers have, but they're going to try to get the passes out quick so that way you counteract what Tampa can bring defensively as far as their front seven goes with their pass rush. So, when I look at the matchup, it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I just don't know if both teams are going to have high-scoring outputs. I think the Bucs are going to put up, I'm going to say at least 30 points in this game. And I think the Patriots are going to put up somewhere in maybe the 20s. But I do have the Bucs winning this one. I think this is a game where they probably win by 10 to 14 points. And if the Patriots can't score, if they have a really difficult time scoring against this Tampa defense, I think there's a very good chance that Tampa can win this game by 3 touchdowns.
Potentially. My thing is right now, obviously we didn't get to mention Richard Sherman signed with the Buccaneers yesterday. Or was it this morning?
He signed, yes. He signed on, what's today? Thursday? He signed on Wednesday.
So he had his first practice today. And we're all kind of just sitting here looking at this like, well, what Richard Sherman are we getting? Are we going to get a old and washed Richard Sherman that could not stay on the field because of health reasons on the 49ers last year? Or are we going to get prime Seattle Richard Sherman in terms of just playing with a good definitive system, him being probably the number one corner on that team, even though he's at the age and stage in his career that he is? We're just going to have to see what happens. I don't necessarily see any big targets for New England really making that big of a difference on the offensive side that Richard would have to necessarily shut down. He'll just kind of have to play his role in the system that Tampa runs. So we will see what happens, but I'm actually glad that you agree with me. I'm kind of surprised. I thought you would say maybe Mac Jones would be able to torch them up.
With the way that Brady's been playing so far, granted they did lose to the Rams last week, but he still threw for over 400 yards. So, granted, they didn't get in the end zone as much as LA did, but they didn't lose that game because of Brady. They lost that game because the defense gave up damn near 35 points. So, Matt Stafford had a really good game against that Tampa defense. Do I think that Mac Jones is going to light it up against that defense like Matt Stafford did? No, but I do think that New England's going to run some safe plays with Mac. I think by and large, most of the passes that they're going to have Mac throw are going to probably be within about, 5 to maybe 15 yards. They might dial up, a deep ball here and there, but I think a lot of the passes that they're going to throw are going to be relatively short and intermediate passes. And, Tampa's going to have to cover that. So I don't necessarily think that they're going to have to worry about the long ball because last week against the Rams, they got torched by Deshaun Jackson when he got that 75-yard touchdown. So I think
that's hilarious.
I think this is a game where I think the Bucs defense, I think they can kind of play up a little bit because they know Mac Jones is kind of limited. Not like as far as like power to throw the ball downfield. It's just that New England doesn't have a target that could really kind of like spread the field. Meaning like take the top off of a defense. Maybe Nelson Aguilar could do that, but not compared to what the Rams had with Deshaun Jackson and even like Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods last week. So,
no.
Yeah, I think this is a game where I think the Bucs kind of get it back together after taking an L to the Rams last week, and I think just the Patriots. it's just a matchup where I think they're just going to be overwhelmed with what the Bucs present them, because the Bucs just offensively, they're stout. And I mean, I do think that the Patriots defense can hold up to a certain extent, but it's like I said, if that Patriot offense is not scoring, that Patriots defense is going to stay on the field a lot longer, and they're going to get winded. They're going to get gassed, and it's going to leave some vulnerabilities in that defense. And I know Brady's going to definitely take that defense to task if he's able to find some exploits, just based on the fact that the Patriots might not score.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a good game. It's probably going to be one of the better games of the weekend. At least we hope so. We all thought that the Monday night game with Philly and the Cowboys was going to be a crazy one. So that didn't pan out to be well. And our predictions have actually been dog shit thus far this season, similar to last season. We
I mean,
actually
we've been rational with our predictions. I mean, what are you looking at?
So Chad Green comes in the game and just gives up a fucking double. Why? Guys, why?
Wait,
I don't
wait,
understand.
wait, wait. Hold up. Okay, so we're talking about the Yankees game. They're playing the Blue Jays right now. So what's the score right now, Kev? Give us an update.
It's still 5-2, bottom 8 right now. No outs, man on second for Toronto. But it's just overall, when Chad Green comes in the game, it just fucks up the momentum lately. I don't know what's going on with him and his mental. I do apologize to everybody that has been watching. I do lose track of whatever topic we're talking about because the Yankees are currently in a fucking wild card chase to get into the postseason. And yesterday we lost, which was a great game. Can't be mad. But today we were down 2-0 or 2-1. And then we kind of popped off somewhere in the sixth inning and scored 4 runs and had back-to-back home runs. So it was absolutely incredible. But yeah, Chad Green is in the game, and your boy is actually shitting his pants. But the reason I'm so close to the damn camera is because I have like 18 mosquito bites on my ankle, and I'm itchy as shit. So before the mosquito itches consume me and the Yankee game actually makes me erupt, we are actually going to softly move into the next topic at hand, in which Kyle has so gently placed on the agenda, which is going to be the Rams and the Cardinals. Both quarterbacks being MVP potential candidates right now, both of them in the NFC West. I almost said NL West. You see what I mean? Baseball got me fucked up.
I know.
Overall, both quarterbacks have played completely sensational. Both teams have been playing absolutely phenomenal, both being 3-0, like I had stated. Winner takes sole possession of the division here, and I think that this game is going to be absolutely incredible. I mean, an electrifying light show. I mean, both offenses are lighting it up. Both defenses are playing solid. So, I mean, Kyle, I'm just going to ask you straight up, with both quarterbacks kind of putting themselves or catapulting themselves into this NFL MVP race, I'm just going to ask you, who do you think is going to be able to perform better under the pressure?
I'm going to be honest with you. This is a tough one for me to answer because they're both different in their own ways, but I'm going to go with Matt Stafford. Simply just because this is like Matt Stafford's first opportunity to run it with a real team, probably throughout his entire career. And he's been playing phenomenal up until this point. Through 3 games, he has 9 touchdowns to 1 interception. He's completing 70% of his passes, and his quarterback rating is damn near 130. It's phenomenal. And the thing is, they've been going up against, maybe some decent teams. The Bears are kind of treading water right now. The Colts kind of suck, but, they had a huge win against the Buccaneers last week. And, I mean, it's tough. You're getting back-to-back games where you're going up against really good teams in the Buccaneers and the Cardinals. It's just, when I look at the connection that he's been able to establish with Cooper Kupp already, that connection, I can't believe it's popped off this quickly, because Cooper Kupp looks like one of the best receivers in the league already. And it just, by and large, I think it's simply just because I think Cooper Kupp and him, they have a very good understanding of what they're looking for when they're going up against opposing defenses, just certain weaknesses to look at. And I think when it comes to Matt Stafford and where he could take this team legitimately has a shot to make it to the Super Bowl this year, because this is such an upgrade from what they had in Jared Goff the last couple seasons. This is really the way I think Sean McVay wants this offense to be run, and they have the guy to actually do that. And even though that I didn't talk about Kyler here, Kyler's great in his own ways. He's able to extend plays with his feet. he's able to kind of do like these, what I would consider almost, they're almost kind of like fadeaway passes where he's just kind of like throwing it off of his back foot. Matt Stafford really isn't known for that. He is kind of more of a pocket passer, can extend the play with his feet and could throw out of the pocket. But Kyler, his skill set is far different than Matt Stafford. He's far more athletic than what Stafford can present. But I just roll with Stafford here because he's just a machine. Granted, when he was playing with Detroit, he was putting up 5,000 yard plus seasons on a routine basis. Kyler Murray, I think, has the potential to do that. It may just depend on how. It depends on how well they open up the playbook for him when it comes to him in Kingsbury. But it's just Matt Stafford. He's on a roll right now. I think he'll do more of the same against this Cardinals defense, which does kind of have a suspect secondary to a certain extent. And if they're able to beat that pass rush that the Cardinals have with Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt, man, I think Matt Stafford is set up for another solid performance where he could put up at least another 300 yards and potentially another 3 touchdown passes. So, yeah, at this point in the season, I would roll with Matt Stafford. I'd give him a slight edge, but that's not to discredit what Kyler's done. Kyler's had a very good start to the season as well. It's just I roll with Matt here.
So I'm definitely going to agree. And it's funny because you kind of broke it down where you said Matt's a little bit more on the traditional side, whereas Kyler can kind of do almost these video game plays where he's throwing off of his back foot, where he's freaking scrambling around, making it look like a Madden video game where he's like zigging and zagging and finding people open. The phrase that comes to my mind is, you remember in Men in Black 2 where Jay has to go get K and he has to like remind him of like all the things they did together. He's describing the cars that they had. He's like, this is what I drive. This is what you drive. This old and busted, and this new hotness. And like everybody's all hyped around Kyler Murray because he's making these electric plays. He's like new hotness. But like Matt Stafford, old and busted, ain't really busted. But that's just, it's funny. That's kind of like the correlation I made in my mind. But we all do know that Matt Stafford is an athletically gifted quarterback in his own right, just like you perfectly described. Traditionally, a pocket quarterback, has a great arm, very accurate this season. Finally, the best weaponry he's been surrounded with overall as a team on both sides of the football, honestly, and probably the best coach he's ever had outside of Jim Caldwell. But overall, I do agree. I do truthfully and honestly think the Rams are just going to continue their dominance. I agree with Kyle. Arizona's secondary is questionable at best. Outside of J.J. Watt, Isaiah Rodgers, or Isaiah Simmons, excuse me. Is it Rodgers or Simmons, the linebacker?
I believe it's Simmons.
Yeah, Isaiah Simmons and Chandler Jones. I don't necessarily have any, but excuse me. How can I forget Buda Baker? Outside of those 4 named players on the defensive side of the ball, I do think Matt Stafford is going to go out there and not torch, but I agree with Kyle, probably like 325, 350, maybe about 3 scores. Arizona could possibly force a turnover with the athleticism of some of those players, maybe a strip sack from some of those rushers, maybe a coverage interception from Buda or Isaiah. But overall, I do see this as a victory for the Rams, taking sole possession of first place in the NFC West. I'm not going to sit here and say that Kyler's going to have a bad game. I'm not coming out here and saying that Kyler is not going to find ways to get the ball in some of his playmakers' hands. I do think that for the most part, DeAndre Hopkins will be blanketed by Jalen Ramsey, as he should be. So it's going to be a big game for A.J. Green, Christian Kirk, and a lot of those other 2 and 3 receivers. And quite frankly, I do think that some of the running backs are going to have to step up out of the backfield. Chase Edmonds, obviously, James Conner and the rest of those boys are going to have to do what they need to do. But the matchup is going to be great. The fact that both quarterbacks are doing such amazing things overall. Okay, DJ LeMahieu leaves game with hip soreness. Great, just as the postseason is going to start. No, it's totally fine. I'm not freaking out inside. It's fine. But yes, in regards to the MVP race, I know that this week will mark the quarter mark of the NFL season. So, I mean, after this game, we'll really be able to give you guys a better prediction as to what we think or who we believe, in our opinion, would be close to an MVP if it were to end on Sunday night or Monday night. But, both quarterbacks are doing incredible. I'm super happy and super excited to watch any Rams, any Cardinals games that I can, because to me, they are must-watch TV on offense. Kyler makes those cool electric Sports Center top 10 play moments, and then Matthew Stafford just absolutely torches defenses to the point where you're just like, how is he open? How is that throw made? But as Kyle and I both stated, this is the best team Matt's been surrounded by his entire career. And he's showing exactly what the envision Sean McVay had for the system when he took over as head coach for the LA Rams. So this matchup's going to be one for the history books as well. It could be a very high-scoring game for both sides. Don't be surprised if the edge rushers for each team does create a turnover. Obviously, you have Aaron Donald on one side, and on the other side of the football, or should I say the other side of the field, you're going to get J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones coming off both sides. So I think it's going to be a good game overall.
Yeah, I mean, I fully expect that. Like, so I mean, to dive into like the X's and O's of the game, who do you have winning and why?
I'm definitely taking the Rams. I'm going Rams by maybe a touchdown. I think it's going to come down to who makes the first mistake. I think it's going to be pretty much a high scoring game. Maybe, I don't know, 28-35, something of that magnitude, maybe 35-31. 35-31. I think Kyler's probably going to have at least 2 turnovers. There are times when he is rushed or put in different situations. He tends to put the ball in a bad spot or make a bad play decision, whether that's him scrambling and fumbling or whether that's him putting the ball in a bad spot. So I think Kyler has probably a turnover or two, and I think that's going to lead the Rams to kind of go down the field and score. I don't know about last minute in terms of like final 3 minutes of the game, but I do think that the Rams hold off and are able to solidify a victory.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Rams, I think they actually win this one by probably, I'm going to say maybe like 7 to 10 points. And the one thing that I've been looking about with the Cardinals the last couple weeks is they've kind of had their struggles the last 2 weeks in particular. They were in a dogfight against the Vikings in week 2 where they only won that game by 1 point. And then against the Jaguars last week in week 3, there was a point in time where they were down in that game and the Jags were kind of going toe to toe with them. Now, granted, they did make some adjustments going into the second half, and that's when they were able to kind of get some distance against the Jags to get that win. But Kyler was decent in that game, but he had no touchdowns passing in that game, and he had one interception and 300 yards. But it's kind of indicative of this team. It's like they're good for one half of football, and then in the second half, like the second half, whether it's you know they play well in the first half of the game and they kind of slack off in the second, or vice versa. I haven't really seen a full consistent win outside of that week 1 win where they just absolutely blew the doors off the Titans. So in this matchup, I think the Cardinals are, if they're going to win this game, they need to play a full 60-minute effort, and they got to at least put up 30 points in this game because I believe that the Rams are going to try to put up 30 like they did against the Bucs last weekend. The Rams know that they can attack this secondary, and they have the wideouts to do that. Cooper Kupp's been absolutely sensational this year. He's clearly Matt Stafford's number 1 target. I mean, Cooper Kupp had 2 touchdowns in that Bucs game last week, and I imagine it might be more of the same in this Cardinals matchup. I wouldn't be surprised if Robert Woods gets in the action, gets a couple catches here and there. Tyler Higbee as well. I believe he got his first touchdown of the year last year
Thank
in that
God for
Bucs
both of
matchup.
us.
Yeah, we have him in fantasy. And I think that they're going to try to utilize Sony Michel to a certain extent. I don't know if they're going to utilize him in the passing game, but I think there's been more of a consistent effort to try to get him the ball as far as getting touches on the ground. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets possibly maybe 15 touches on the ground. But they do have to contend against that pass rush, or excuse me, that front 4 that the Cardinals have with J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones. So I think this is going to be a very highly powered offensive matchup between both teams. If I had to say, I always typically try to put a score on this. I think the Rams are going to put up kind of similar numbers to what they had against the Bucs last week. I'm going to say they put up, I'm going to say 35 points, and I think the Cardinals, they're going to put up 27. So I could see this being an 8-point game, but to be honest with you, I could see this possibly being, a 2-possession game, possibly even a 14-point game when it's all said and done. But I got the Rams this one. They look like the better team. They're at home, and I just think they're on a roll, especially after getting that big win against Tampa last week. And I think it's going to be more of the same in this matchup.
Dude, Cincinnati actually is coming back. They scored in less than 3 minutes into the second half. Cincinnati scored a touchdown, and they forced Jacksonville to punt on their first drive. So Joe Burrow and the boys is they moving the ball.
Who got the
Just gonna
touchdown?
put
Who got the touchdown?
Ushman Zada or Ushman, whatever the hell the tight end's name.
I think it's like Uzama or something.
Uzuma, yeah, I just think of Hushmanzado. And Chad Green strikes out the side after the leadoff double. Sweet. All right, top of the ninth inning, baby.
Bro, you'd be sweating bullets over the Yankees when they have a 3-run lead. Like, it's
Sweating
your job.
bullets, bro. We can be up 37 points. I have no faith. I be getting worried, bro. I
For
be
no
getting
reason.
worried.
Bro, you gotta
Hey,
have some faith.
listen,
You gotta have some
it's
faith,
not
my guy.
about faith. It's just listen. It's Murphy's law. I know when I start getting excited, that means that a downfall is coming. That's just my mindset.
But you gotta be a little bit confident in your team. They're on a
I'm
good stretch
confident.
right.
I'm confident we nice, but you and I both know 13 in a row, 7 straight losses. It don't add up. No, we go on spurts of incredible to what the fuck is happening right now.
Yeah,
So,
I,
excuse me if I have no
I,
faith in
I,
inconsistencies.
I mean, look, I'll break it down to you like this. It's very simple. Let's just say hypothetically that the Yankees don't make the playoffs. Let's just throw it out there.
Hush your fucking mouth.
I'm just saying, just play this one out with me.
No.
At least you guys beat the brakes off the Red Sox at the end of the
In
year.
one series, who the fuck cares?
I'm just saying the way that you were able to essentially dispense them.
But if they go to the
like,
playoffs, what does it matter?
Giancarlo essentially is like part owner of the Red Sox at this point with what he was
Correct.
able to do with them. It's like 3 home runs, 10
Correct.
ribbies. So, I mean, who knows? They might still find their way out of the playoffs. I mean, who knows? But it's just
We will see what happens in that front because if I go down this baseball rabbit hole, we ain't coming out for 20 minutes. So, moving along ever so softly, we are going to get into our next game, which is going to be the Cowboys and the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, the Panthers are probably one of the biggest shocks in the NFL, going 3-0. The Cowboys are 2-1, just a few points shy of being 3-0. Obviously, that loss against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Week 1. Dak Prescott has showed that the ankle's just fine. He's playing great football. Ezekiel Elliott had an absolute great game. Tony Pollard's playing good. The wide receiver core is playing absolutely sensational. And the most surprising thing is Dallas's defense is playing relatively solid. They held Justin Herbert to 17 points. They kept Jalen Hurts to 21 points, but technically 14 because
it was garbage time.
Garbage time, and the first touchdown was a defensive score. So technically, you held Philly to 14 points. So I'm just going to come right out and say it. I don't think the Carolina is going to be able to kind of escape this, if I'm being honest with you. I think that the high-powered offense of the Cowboys is going to be able to come out there and not light it up, but I do think without CMC there, I do think without Joe Horn Jr. there, that it's not Joe Horn Jr., is it?
It's J.C. Horn.
J.C. Horn. I apologize. My bad, Horn. I think that the acquisition of C.J. Henderson was a panic move because they did lose their top corner early on in the season. But I'm curious to see how this game pans out. Carolina's defense is actually statistically rated the best defense in the NFL right now with everything that they've been able to dominate from rushing yards per game, I believe passing yard attempts, and a couple of other feats. I know I saw it on Pro Football Focus. They literally lead the NFL in so many different categories. But Kyle, I'm just going to transition to you. Can Carolina maintain this undefeated streak against this high-powered Dallas offense, or will Dallas knock them off the undefeated horse and show that they're a team to be messed with this season?
I mean, I think Dallas gets the win here because when I look at what the Panthers have played this year so far, they played the Jets, they played the Saints, and the Texans. Now, there's only really one good team that they've played against so far, and that's probably the Saints. But when I look at what the Cowboys present so far, and I can't believe I'm actually talking about the Cowboys in this way, it's kind of shocking to me.
I predict them to win the division. I'm just saying.
The Cowboys look really good right now, and maybe that's just because of the beatdown they put on Philly in Week 3. But when I look at this Cowboys team, this is a well-rounded unit. So the Cowboys are coming off of a win where they scored 41 points. They essentially beat probably the one team that might contend with them as far as who's going to win the NFC East this year. And they did it in a very well-rounded fashion. Dak was efficient in that game. I believe he only had like 5 incompletions in that game. Ezekiel Elliott probably had one of his best games of the year, if not his best game of the year. And the defense was in a situation where they were basically playing on their toes and ready for what Jalen Hurts was ready to present. Now, transitioning into the Panthers matchup, that they have, I think it's going to be more of the same. I think that defense is going to peel their ears back, and I think they're going to be able to get a consistent pass rush against Sam Darnold. Now, are they going to get home like they were able to against Jalen Hurts? Who knows? I doubt it, just because, let's be honest, Philly's offensive line was really kind of suspect to begin with, and Jalen had to run out of the pocket many times in that matchup. And that could be a situation where the Panthers could be in that same situation that the Eagles were in last week. Um, the biggest thing with me in this matchup for the Panthers is that they cannot turn the ball over. And the Cowboys, they've been sensational with getting turnovers so far. I
They
think
lead the league.
I believe they have 8 turnovers already just in 3 weeks. So Carolina is definitely going to have to protect the football in this game if they're going to have a shot to win this game. I just don't really see that here. I think the Cowboys are on a roll right now, especially after that Philly win. Dak looks like he's not only better than what he was coming off of that terrible, gruesome leg injury that he had last year. I mean, he has this offense humming in ways that I didn't think that were going to be possible probably until midway through the season. I thought they were going to kind of struggle at first when they kind of like reintegrate him back into the offense, but he's been sensational so far. He looks confident, he's efficient, he's not turning the ball over. And I think if they just get more of the run game going with Zeke and Tony Pollard, I don't know how Carolina's going to be able to stop that. This is probably the best offense that Carolina's faced at this point, even though that the Saints are 2-1. I think the Cowboys have a much more high caliber offense than the Saints currently do. And I definitely think that the Cowboys are going to stretch this defense. And I think that the Cowboys, when it's all said and done, I think they're going to put up 30 points in this game. And I think this is going to be the game where I think Carolina, they take a back seat. I do think that 3-0 record is a little overstated or maybe a little overhyped simply because they haven't played against the best talent so far. And I think the Cowboys are going to expose them a little bit. I think the Cowboys win this one, and I think they win this one by about, I think, 7 to 10 points. I think this could be potentially a 2-possession win for the Cowboys when it's all said and done.
So obviously, I got the Cowboys winning this game, as I stated before. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be that big of a margin, just because the Panthers' defense is on a roll. The Panthers' defense has not seen anything competitive in regards to a high-powered or like focal point offense like the Dallas Cowboys. But you can't take away the fact that those numbers state that they are playing at a very high level. CeeDee Lamb is slowly but quietly emerging as the number one receiver on this team outside of Amari Cooper. I don't know if it's because people are doubling Amari or because CeeDee is creating that much separation. So I am curious to kind of see how Carolina picks their poison, to see what receiver they're going to either double or kind of just focus on. But overall, I do see that this game maybe goes to 7 to 10 points. I think this game just comes to a little bit more of a closer decision just because I feel like Carolina's offense is something to not be slept on either. DJ Moore and the rest of those boys are pretty solid in terms of the receiving core. Robbie Anderson is somebody that you can't really sleep on anymore because he's proven it the last 2 years that it wasn't a fluke in New York. He is a viable deep threat, and he does run consistent routes as well. So we will see how it portrays over the next couple of days and kind of see what the injury report looks like for Dallas. I know they're missing quite a bit of stars on their side of the ball as well. So super excited. Another 4 o'clock game that is going to be absolutely crazy. It's funny when you think about picking the poison of what matchup you really want to see or like stop to watch. So it's going to be a good Sunday. And Brett Gardner just homered. So let's go Yankees.
Yeah, I think you could stop sweating about that game. I think they got this one in hand. I don't see them blowing a 4-run lead in the bottom of the ninth. Let's be honest about that, my guy.
You keep speaking that into existence. I swear, if we lose this game, it is all on your shoulders.
I'm just saying.
I'm letting you know right now, it's all on your shoulders. I will personally see myself go to Tampa, and we gonna have some words.
Bro, I'm not even really the Yankees fan here, and I'm more confident in that team than you are.
Chappie, I told you the most worrisome person in this bullpen right now is Aroldis Chapman. Granted, now that it's a 4-1 game, I don't necessarily know if they're going to put him in because we have a big series coming up against Tampa, but we will see what happens.
I guarantee you that lineup for the Blue Jays is either going to go 1, 2, 3, or it gets to the fourth batter, and then that's it. I think that at most it gets to the fourth batter, and that's it.
We shall see.
I know it'll be soon because they'll finish it up in about 5-10 minutes.
But we shall see. Kyle, what is next on the agenda, my friend?
All right. So up next we have the last game that we're going to talk about for week 4, and that is going to be the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Denver Broncos. So currently, the Broncos are at the top of the AFC West with a 3-0 record. And Baltimore, on the other side, they are currently sitting at 2-1 after just a crazy ending against the Detroit Lions, where Justin Tucker hit a NFL record-setting 66-yard game-winning field goal that put them up, I believe, 19-17 to get them that win. So, Kevin, when we look at this matchup between the Ravens and the Broncos, this is really the first real test that the Broncos have had all season, because the 3 wins that they've had, they've been against subpar teams in the Giants, the Jags, and the Jets. But my question to you is, can the Broncos make a statement by beating a legitimate battle-tested team in the Ravens this week?
So it's weird because I would normally say that this team, and by this team I mean the Broncos, isn't shit. But in reality, they're doing a lot of impressive things with a lot of key players missing in terms of Teddy Bridgewater was inserted into this offense relatively late in the offseason. They just lost a couple of receivers. Jerry Jeudy is out for another couple of weeks, and I believe someone else just tore a major ligament in their leg. So they're down 2 receivers offensively. They're splitting carries with a rookie from North Carolina and a veteran in Melvin Gordon. They just got Von Miller back from a season-ending injury last season. They drafted a rookie star corner from Alabama who has shown loads of promise, and an all-pro potential safety in Justin Simmons. So I can't sit here and say that the Broncos are just beating shit teams and they don't have anybody on this team. No, 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 no. They are playing exponentially well, and they are looking very good, and they're dominating teams that they need to. You know what I mean? If they were winning by like 3 points, 7 points, I'd be like, damn, like they're scraping against these shitty teams. They're playing very well. They're playing effective football, and they're doing what they need to do against bad teams. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be enough to combat the Baltimore Ravens and that offense. A statistic that I just read today that I shared with Kyle, Lamar Jackson leads the league in rushing, and Lamar Jackson leads the league in passing yards per attempt. Never in NFL history has that even been a remotely close statistic. Even when Michael Vick, Randall Cunningham, and the mobile quarterbacks of the NFL were in their primes. So Lamar is on another level of, you guys gonna be on my back, and I'm doing this, because the running back room in Baltimore has been a little bit lackluster and inconsistent, to say the least. Losing J.K. Dobbins, and then obviously losing Gus Edwards. They're kind of rotating between Latavius Murray and Trayvon Williams.
Trayvon Williams, I believe.
So it's legitimately going back and forth between a couple of, it's like a running back committee, and then you have Lamar Jackson, the quarterback of the team, leading the NFL in rushing. So I don't necessarily know if they're ready for that RPO that Baltimore loves to run. I don't know if they're ready for the scrambling capabilities that Lamar brings to the table. But I will say that they're probably better equipped than a lot of other teams that they've played. Pittsburgh doesn't have the pass rush outside of TJ Watt to go and contain them. I don't think that Vegas had it either. And then last week, or should I say 2 weeks ago, the Chiefs definitely weren't able to find a reason, because Lamar had over 100 yards rushing in that game alone, the majority of those yards coming in the second half. So it really does pose the question of, can Denver pull this off? And if so, how are they going to do it? I really do think that the defense of Baltimore is their weakness. So if anything, it's going to have to come from Tim Patrick, Noah Fant, Courtland Sutton, and the running backs that I mentioned in Javonte Williams and obviously Melvin Gordon. So I think it's going to have to be an offensive shootout, because I don't necessarily see Denver being able to stop Lamar, maybe slow him down and make life a living hell in terms of his passing yards, because we all know Von Miller is a quarterback destroyer, and he's very quick. Even at his age, we do know that he can get to the quarterback and kind of keep up in terms of when they scramble. But we will see. So I'm definitely going to go and lean towards Baltimore. I don't know why I just said it that way. I looked at the camera as awkwardly as I did. But I think Baltimore wins this game by maybe 3 points, maybe 7 points. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it might be like 21-17 or 20-23 or something of that magnitude. I just think that it's going to be a very grinding game, but it's going to be heavy on the run game for Baltimore for sure.
I'm actually going to slightly disagree with you here. Um, the way that you set it up, I agree. I just have a different result. I'm actually going to go with Denver here. And you kind of highlighted it. Granted, they have played some subpar teams, and I think that goes without saying. But the fact of the matter is, you have to play against who you're matched up with. And they've been rather successful against those three teams that I mentioned at the top when I was asking the question. So when I look at this matchup, and I'm looking at what the Broncos are presented with here, they're going up against a team that, to be honest with you, they should be 1-2 in the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, they damn near lost to one of the worst teams in the NFL in the Detroit Lions last week. And if it didn't take for a miracle kick by Justin Tucker, this team would be sitting at 1-2. So I think if you're looking at this from Denver's perspective, I think you know that the secondary can be had. And with the way that Teddy Bridgewater has been playing so far this year, granted, he is not like lighting it up like, Tom Brady, Matt Stafford, but he's playing effective football. He's
He's
not putting
doing
the
just enough.
he's not putting the ball into harm's way too many times. And this team is going to be rather dependent on the run game. So I do expect that Melvin Gordon is going to have a solid game. I wouldn't be surprised if their backup running backs also get good touches, whether it's on the ground or in the passing game. And I do expect that Baltimore is going to have a little bit of a tough time to what Denver's defense is going to be able to present. Because when I look at what the Broncos have been able to do against the three teams that they've beaten so far, is they've held them in check. They've only given up 26 points in the first 3 games of the year, which means they're only giving up under 9 points a game. And granted, this is probably the most athletic quarterback that they've gone up against in Lamar Jackson, but I do think that they're going to be able to contain him. Because if you slow down Lamar Jackson in any capacity whatsoever, it is going to stifle that Baltimore offense. And with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards in the lineup, and with them not in the lineup, excuse me, it's going to make the Ravens really one-dimensional. If Lamar's not getting it going based on what the Broncos defense presents them, I think it's going to be tough sledding against Denver here. So I guess in my opinion, I think the Broncos are going to win a close one. I think the Ravens are going to keep it close because I don't know what it is with the Ravens this year. Apparently their games like literally are like decided by 1, 2, or 3 points so far this year. So I think the Broncos edge this one out. I think it's going to be a mid-level scoring game. I think it's going to be kind of like in like the mid-20s. But I think the Broncos win this one. I think it's going to be like 27-21 when it's all said and done.
Be a good game overall. I am excited to see what Denver can do against their best opponent, obviously, thus far. So we'll see how truthful their record will reflect. We'll see if the skill kind of matches up against the play of Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
So key matchups, obviously, like we said, can Vaughn get to Lamar? Can Lamar dominate this defense? And can Teddy play effective football like he has been throughout the rest of the season, or like he has been throughout the season thus far? So overall, super excited to see where this goes. I am definitely curious to see what the end result will be. I'm happy that we both disagree, at least in this case, because it really is a hard thing to kind of predict when you have a team like Denver going up against a team like Baltimore, because Baltimore is literally coming back from the brink of death in almost every game they've played, coming back from multiple scores against Kansas City. They came back, or no, Vegas came back from that game, right? And then Vegas ended up winning.
Yeah, Vegas won it.
And so on and so forth. So I'm super curious to see if they can kind of hold him. Lamar is just on another level, at least in running the ball. And the fact that he also leads the league in yards per attempt in the air is just like ridiculous. That statistic should not exist for a quarterback, at least simultaneously with leading the league in rushing. So, I mean, it's going to be a good one. I think that the majority of the games at 4 o'clock outside of maybe one is going to be just stellar football. I mean, unless you have Red Zone or NFL Ticket, it's like pick your poison. Like, what do you want to watch more? But I cannot wait for Sunday, man. I'm so excited.
I do got to ask. This is just, I was looking at those later slated games, those 4 to like 4:30 games that are going to take place this weekend. I just want to ask you just a quick question. You got the Steelers going up against the Packers. Yep. Is this a must-win game for the Steelers against Green Bay?
I don't know about must win. I mean, we're talking week 4 here. The Steelers are 2-1. It's an outer conference game. I mean, if anything, I think it's
The
probably
Steelers are
better
1 and
for the
2.
Packers. That's what I said, 1-2.
You said 2 and 1.
The Packers are 2-1.
Oh, I meant I was talking about the Steelers.
Yeah, no, I'm saying like I'm reading the
Oh, okay.
yeah, the overall record for the teams. I was saying in general, I think it's a not a must win for the Packers, but a statement game for the Packers because this is just going to continue to show. We're coming in after this bad game and we're dominating no matter what team. I mean, TJ Watt didn't play last game. Ben Roethlisberger has looked like an absolute shit show. They haven't been able to run the ball with Najee Harris. The fact that he had 19 targets last week really does show how bad they needed Deontay Johnson and Juju Smith-Schuster. So I don't want to say must win, but I mean, for the sake of the segment, yeah, I would say probably because I mean, if they go 1-3, I don't necessarily see them coming back. I mean, for God's sakes, the Cincinnati Bengals are 2-1. The Cleveland Browns are 2-1. The Ravens are 2-1. Like they're the worst team in the division. I don't think anybody on earth would have predicted this at this point in the season. So if they lose this game, more than likely it's probably going to be trending for the foreseeable future. I just don't think Ben's got it anymore. I mean, besides being completely immobile, his arm just does not look the same. And the offensive line just looks like an absolute joke. So, number one pick or not for the Steelers and Najee Harris, I don't necessarily know if he's going to be able to produce. Granted, Green Bay's defense isn't anything special. So if there is a game for Pittsburgh to wake up, Deontay Johnson is listed as active. I don't know Juju status for the game, but this would be the time for the Steelers to wake up to a certain extent. So, again, I'll reiterate, yes, I think this is a must win. Personally, again, it's too early, but I mean, at this point, when you have an aging roster and an aging quarterback, I would probably say getting on the ball would probably be better now than later when it's too late.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the Steelers, I mean, I think they need this game. They got to show me that they could put a decent offensive performance out there and not look ugly at the same time. Because even though they won that game against the Bills in the first week of the season, it did not look particularly pretty. And Ben has just been getting hit, dude. He,
Hit is not the word, bro. He
I,
can't move.
I know, like he looks like a tree half the time when he's like trying to move. It's just like it looks like it hurts.
That that play where he's running and rolls right and busts his ass. He looked
Bro,
like my
like
grandpa trying to throw the slipper at me in the chocolate when I was a little boy.
it's like I don't get it. Like Big
Shit.
Ben, one of the best quarterbacks of this generation. Granted, I understand that he's getting towards the end. It's just that I didn't think it would look like this bad. I just don't know, like, to bring up an old quote. You know, I don't know if Ben is like essentially falling off of a cliff. I think in large part it's due to injury. I just think he's battered at this point. And that's really kind of the main thing is I think if he were healthy, I don't think this would be an issue. But I think just as he's gotten older, he's just more susceptible or more prone to injury. And I think that that's kind of been the issue at play here because I think when he was younger, he could take hits. He could be able to like shake off those hits. I mean, he's going up against big guys, against opposing defensive linemen, and he could shake those guys. It's kind of like one of the very few quarterbacks where it was like a hassle to bring him down because he was just a tough dude. But when he's getting up into these later years of his career, he just doesn't have it to me. He just doesn't have it anymore. And if he's getting hit, he just can't go out there consistently like he used to. And I think Pittsburgh is left in a situation where they don't really have a backup plan after him. So, they're going to have to roll with him. But I mean, if he goes down like for a long period of time with an injury, they're going to be looking at a situation where it's like they have to draft a quarterback immediately. So, I mean, like when you look at Green Bay, you juxtapose that with Green Bay. At least they have Jordan Love behind Rodgers. Granted, I don't know if Jordan Love's really the solution, but, depending on what happens with Aaron Rodgers this year, at least there's somebody waiting in the wings, so to speak. Granted with Pittsburgh, they really don't have that yet. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't got no faith in Jordan Love. That was a draft pick out of spite to me. I don't really care what the media says or what Green Bay says. That was just something to rattle Aaron's feathers because Jordan Love has not proven anything in practice with the second unit, let alone if that man gets starting NFL reps, he's going to get annihilated. But neither here nor there. I do agree it has to do with injuries, but I'm not saying it's because he's injured now. You've already stated when Ben was younger, the man took hits, the man played injured between ankles, fractured ribs, ligament tears. I mean, you name it. Ben Roethlisberger is probably one of the last quarterbacks in the NFL that is a warrior. He played through injuries he probably should not have.
mhm.
Wrap me up, put a brace on my ribs, tape up my feet. He was never a mobile quarterback in his life. But even an immobilized, worse than what he was, Ben Roethlisberger 5, 6, 7 years ago was 10 times better than some quarterbacks in the league because he was able to make it happen.
Mhm.
The defenses still had to respect. He's not going to run, but this man will find a way to roll out, extend the play. I think Ben Roethlisberger has one of the most iconic pump fakes in NFL history. The
Mhm.
man literally looks like he has let go of the ball to the point where the camera follows it and the camera thinks he's let go. He's got one of the most believable pump fakes I've ever seen. But again, I think that the injuries that he has rattled up in his playing career has finally caught up to where he's at that age, 39 years old. Never again, like I said, wasn't mobile. He's finally got a pretty shitty offensive line, and he's not getting any younger. And I saw, I'm pretty sure I sent it to you. I saw something where it said Father Time is funny because you can see Tom at 44 and Aaron at 39, almost 40, playing like they're in their early 30s or if not late 20s. But Ben here is just sitting here like, holy shit, bro. Like, he looks like he's 50 years old. But again, if you make the comparison, Ben in his career alone has more injuries combined than Tom and Aaron have ever had. Granted, Aaron broke his
Aaron was a
collarbone
little bit more.
twice. Aaron broke his collarbone twice, and Brady tore his ACL. But I'm talking like overall in totality of injuries. I think I saw a stat in like the last 12 years, he's been hurt like 19 times, 19 total. It's crazy. And he's lasted this long and won 2 Super Bowls? Like, bro, last of the generation in terms of an Iron Man QB. But we're at that point now in this generation, bro. If you can't even roll out of the pocket without falling on your own shoelace, it's time to hang it up, man. I think he should have hung it up last year. The fact that he's come
Yeah.
back and has played this bad, it ain't looking good for Pittsburgh's front office thinking that he could do it again.
I honestly think that they did that out of just purely emotion. And I mean, look, the guy, he did get you 2 Super Bowls. So,
And
you
he
know,
took you to 3.
yeah, granted, it's been a long time since the third one, but still, you have to kind of, pay homage and pay your respects to the guy. The guy's definitely, he's kept them in playoff contention for damn near 2 decades at this. Well, I would say not 2 decades. Yeah, I would say probably consistently 15
Decade and
years.
change.
I'd say 15 years. But it goes to show. It's just that some of these quarterbacks, when they get up in their later stages of their career, going into those late 30s, possibly early 40s, they just don't have it anymore. Look at Drew Brees last year. Drew Brees was essentially a walking injury report with how many issues that he was dealing with. I think he had the ribs. He cracked like 12 of his ribs on one hit last year.
Rotator cuff.
I think he had like an ankle issue or a foot issue. I mean, he was just riddled with injuries. Philip Rivers last year, granted, I think he was largely healthy last year, but he couldn't throw the ball probably more than 40, 45 yards. He
And
just
we
didn't have,
still went 11-5.
but it's just these guys have a shelf. And, I would really only say that probably Brady and Rodgers are the only two that are kind of pushing the boundary, so to speak. We'll see what happens with Rodgers when he gets into his 40s. But outside of those two in particular, Big Ben, Drew Brees, Philip Rivers, even Peyton. Peyton had the whole neck thing. So, that's what happens when you get into your late 30s. I told you, bro. I told you. I told you.
Sorry, guys. Probably scared the shit out of you at that point in this episode, whether you're listening audio wise, especially if you're in the car. Holy shit, I'm so sorry. If you're watching the video and you don't expect it, I warned you in the beginning of watching the Yankee game. So,
They
didn't
won,
mean to cut
right?
off Kyle. Yeah,
They
didn't mean
won,
to cut
right?
off Kyle. Yeah, they won.
What was the
So,
score?
shut up.
Bro, have some faith, my guy. Like, come on. Granted, I know the Yankees aren't like the best team in the majors this year, but they're a playoff team. Granted, they've been inconsistent at times. It's kind of been a roller coaster of a year, but they're a playoff team. Give them a little shine. Don't say too much. Have a little confidence with this team.
End of the third quarter, Jacksonville Bengals 14-14. I believe Jacksonville has the ball on Cincinnati's 8.
I'm telling you, bro, Jacksonville has been playing well in this game.
Yeah, that doesn't bode well for our damn prediction now, does it?
Yeah, I thought that freaking Cincinnati was going to win that game by what, 10, 14 points?
Something like that, bro.
But I mean, it kind of goes to show is like, you know, when you're only going on maybe like 3 or 4 days rest. I mean, it's tough to play those games bad. It's tough. You know, at least they'll get a little bit of a break going from week 4 to week 5. So that'll kind of work out for both teams. But to round out the episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the St. Louis Cardinals and the historic, phenomenal run that they went on. Kevin, they won 17 consecutive games. I mean, this is the biggest winning streak that the MLB has seen since the Cleveland Indians won 22 straight back in 2017. I mean, just about a month and a half ago, the Cardinals were a sub-500 team. They had a very slim chance of making the playoffs. And they go on this monumental run where they've already claimed a National League wildcard spot. So, Kevin, just give me your thoughts on just how impressive of a run this was from the St. Louis Cardinals.
And overall, as a baseball fan, right, you have to appreciate, especially this late in the season, we're talking 162 total games, right? We are talking about a team that was, if not 2% or just shy of a 2% chance of making the MLB playoffs August 8th or August 9th. We're talking like legitimately, almost impossible. They have since clinched that spot and have gone 18-1 in their last 19 games. They lost last night to the Brewers, and they just won against the Brewers today to close out that series. But I'm looking at this resume in terms of who they beat. These are no scrub teams. Granted, some of them are just barely under 500 outside of maybe one team. The Reds, they are up and down. Obviously, they're no dominant team. But then you have the Mets, who at the time were competing for their own wild card spot, but have since fluttered. The Padres, who have been up and down in the NL West, competing with the Dodgers and the Giants. Then you have Milwaukee, a team that has dominated the NL Central for the majority of this season. They swept them 4 in a row. Then you got the Cubs. Again, the Cubs are nobody. They traded Baez. They traded pretty much everybody. They've been a dumpster fire, but nevertheless, they beat them then 4 times in a row. And then this last series with the Milwaukee Brewers, where they took 2 out of 3. 17 games is absolutely ridiculous. The Yankees won 13, and I was flipping shit. I thought it was absolutely incredible. We were 10 games behind the Red Sox. And then we catapulted to where we were like 4 or 5 games above them. Obviously, we faltered and we gave that lead right back. But overall, we're sitting here and we're looking. I am so sorry. I got a phone call, so I had to put that back on my screen. We're sitting here. We're looking back at this 17-game win streak. Like, what just happened? Like, did they really just come back from the brink of absolute elimination? Kyle, tell me I'm wrong. When we were younger, or even now, when you watch SportsCenter and you see these statistics of the opportunities or chances of teams to make the playoffs, and you hit under like 20%, and you're like, well, they're not winning. They were legit at 2%, if not 1.8. That is basically an impossibility. And they went and made history. Adam Wainwright is having a historic season after being completely injury-ridden over the last 3 to 4 seasons. He's competing for a Cy Young. He's 17-7. The Cardinals are arguably the best team in baseball right now in terms of recent time. In the last 20 games,
they're the hottest.
Dude, they're playing lights out, and they're not just barely winning games. I'm looking at some of these scores. We're talking 11-4, 10-2, 8-5. Like, they're putting up runs.
Yeah.
They're winning games in a reasonable and convincing fashion. They have now clinched the wild card spot to the point where I would fear anybody in the NL playing against this team, because in any sport, the hottest team going into the postseason is usually the scariest, because they have that momentum, that success, that dominance over the last course of the season, whatever time frame that was. But I mean, shout out to the St. Louis Cardinals, man. Shout out to my boy Nick Bartolotta, he's been a Cardinals fan since we were kids back in high school, maybe even younger. Shout out to my man Andrew. He's from Iowa, but he's been a Cardinals fan for some time, obviously with Iowa being so close to Missouri. But dude, I don't know many Cardinals fans. I don't know many people that necessarily cheer for the Cardinals, but to those fans that stood loyal and had faith in this team when they were on the brink of, oh, this season's a wash, kudos to you, man. Shout out to the Cardinals, bro. 17 in a row is no easy feat.
I mean, just to kind of dive into it, like in the early stages of August, they were 71-69. And even before then, they were under 500. So I think the reasonable expectation at that point in time is that that's just too big of a hole to get out of. And then September comes around and they've been just nothing short of phenomenal. I think if I remember correctly, they tied the 1934 Cardinals and like the 1942 Cardinals for like the most wins in the month of September in franchise history. Like that's how crazy this run was. And now they're currently sitting at an 89-70 record. It's one thing to get hot. It's another thing to get this type of hot. And I mean, they saved it for the best time possible because their chances, I believe, in August, they were around maybe 3% to make the playoffs. I think, Kevin, you alluded that it got as low as potentially 2% just like a couple weeks ago. But they said, screw that. Like, we're going to go on this major run. And not only are we going to do it in a way where we're just winning games, we're winning games convincingly. It's like you said, the offense that the Cardinals were displaying in these games was sensational. It wasn't just like they were winning like, 2-1 or 3-2 or like 1-0. No, they were putting runs up consistently, like putting up 6+ runs in most of these wins during this winning streak. So you just got to give a lot of credit to not only the pitching staff for being able to hold opposing teams to relatively small scores. Like most of these scores that I see here are mostly kind of around 3-4 runs a game. That's manageable to work with if the offense is putting up at least 6+. And even in some of the closer games, granted they might have only put up 2 or 3 runs, but the pitching was shutting it down. So kudos to the Cardinals. They deserve it. They've definitely earned a playoff spot at this point just on the recent success that they have. And it's like you mentioned, Kev, this is not a team that you want to face in October because a team that is this hot, that is just rolling into the playoffs on every high imaginable. Man, if you're the Dodgers, if you're the Giants, if you're any team that could potentially play them in any sort of playoff setting, watch out. They've earned it, and man, this is a run where you could really take it far if you play your cards right.
Dude, we all know a lot of sports are a game of runs. Shout out to my boy AJ. He always says basketball is a game of runs because obviously, you hit a couple of shots, you make a couple of layups, a couple of free throws. Before you know it, it's a 12-0 run or whatever have you. It's another thing to do it in terms of a win streak. Baseball is one of the most grueling sports in terms of longevity, bro. You got to go up there and you got to play 160 some odd games in a year, bro. It's the longest season in all of sports from either the tail end of March to the very early stages of April, all the way through November. Dude, that's almost, 8 months?
It's a while, bro. It's a long time.
That's absolutely insane. Well, that's 6 months. Excuse me. That's half the year. I can't do math.
So it's more than that. It's about 6 months. It's like 7 months.
6.5, 7. Yeah.
It's about 7 months.
So you really have to look at it like these players, injuries aside, fatigue, just mental frustrations. You hear it, and the Cardinals aren't going to make it. Your season's pretty much looking like shit for the most part. Obviously, like Kyle said, 71-69, and you come out here and you basically are 20 games over 500 by the end of the season. They have 3 games left against the Cubs, and once again, the Cubs are playing for nothing but spoiling. So maybe spoiling the seeding of the wild card game, but I would expect that the Cardinals at least win 2 of these games. Mm-hmm. So that would put them at over 90 wins, if not 90 wins flat. If you would have asked me in the beginning of August, if the Cardinals would win 20 some odd games in the next month and a half, I would have told you you're smoking some shit. I would have said you're crazy. They just didn't look like they had it going all season long. It was just a road of inconsistencies. Win 5, lose 4, win 3, lose 2. It was just a regular baseball season, a 500 team of expectancy. Wainwright was having a great year. They signed J.A. Happ from the Yankees, and he had a solid year. I mean, for the most part, he just won today. He went 10-8, so I mean, all right. Nothing absolutely crazy. But they did what they needed to do. They dominated this last month and a half, and they rightfully got a playoff spot, like Kyle said, man. And, I mean, whoever plays them, you better play at 100% as if you're playing the number 1 seeded team. Because if you sleep, if you take them for granted, they'll run that score up on you real quick, and you'll be down 4-5-0 real quick. That pitching staff in St. Louis is no joke, and that offense better not be disrespected. They've earned this spot, and I'm excited for postseason baseball to start this week.
It's right around the corner, bro. We're here. It's
No.
gonna...
This is where my anxiety actually like erupts.
What's the magic number for the Yankees at this point? Is it 2?
We have a 3-game series against the Rays. I don't know the magic number. If I'm being honest with you, I have no idea because it's such a tight race. We're 2 games ahead of Boston for the top spot. I think Toronto is a game and a half, if not 2 games.
Yeah, I think you guys are cleared. I don't know what Boston did tonight.
I don't know. I think Boston lost tonight because I know that they were down 6-1.
They lost 2 out of 3 to the Orioles.
Yeah.
Hold up, we gotta look this up before we.
Yeah, they did. They lost. They lost 6-2.
Bro, they might miss the playoffs if they. Bro, they might screw around and miss it.
That's what I'm saying right now. That's why I'm trying to look at this this playoff setting right now. I don't really know what the hell's going on right now.
Because I mean, I think the Yankees, by and large, I think they have this wrapped up. I think they'll definitely claim the first wild card spot. It's just who's gonna get that second one, because I know essentially it's a 3-man race at that point with the Red Sox, the Mariners, and the Blue Jays. So
right now we are 91-68.
So
both the Mariners and the Red Sox are 89-70. We are 2 games above them. And the Blue Jays are 1 game out at 88-71. So we're 3 games up on the Blue Jays and 2 games up on the Sox and the Mariners. So I think the magic number is 1. If I had to do math correctly, if we win 1, we get a for sure spot in a wild card game.
Yeah.
So we got to win the first game against the Rays.
Actually,
I don't think we clinched. I would have gotten that notification.
It could be 2, just based off of, like, let's say, for example, if the Yankees win the first game of their Rays series, but the Mariners win their first game of the series, and the Red Sox do, it would still be 2. They'd still be up 2 games. But I don't know how the tiebreaker would work, essentially. Because let's say, for example, the Yankees just falter against the Rays, but the Red Sox and the Mariners, they win 2 out of their 3 games. There could be a chance that
the Red Sox play Washington to end the season.
I'm just saying that there's a chance that.
Right.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Yankees are pretty much going to lock up that number 1 wild card spot, but it could potentially work out where if the Yankees falter and the Mariners and the Red Sox win the majority of their series, that you could have a 3-way tie. When it comes
we have the hardest. We have the hardest series coming up because the Mariners play the Angels.
Yeah,
Ohtani's not even pitching anymore, and we have the best record in baseball, Rays, in the Bronx, and the Red Sox have the Washington Nationals. Doesn't look good. Oh, wait, hold on. Before I even get excited, who the hell are the Blue Jays playing? Because, shit, curveball aside, they play the great. So we have to play the best team in baseball for 3 games, and you guys play high school teams. Congratulations. I'm going to go fuck myself.
But I think there's one thing that you're discounting. The fact of the matter is that this 3-game series with the Rays is in New York, and it's during the weekend.
I'm aware.
The boys in the Bronx are going to be loud, my guy.
I'm aware.
So I think if this was like a weekday series, so like if it was like Tuesday through Thursday, might be a little bit different because I don't think the crowd would be as much as a factor. But the fact of the matter is that this is a weekend series, bro. People are gonna be popping off in that stadium. It's gonna
Mm,
get loud. So and the thing
ooh,
is, are the Rays really gonna play spoiler that much?
yes,
They could.
yes,
They could look at it. It's like we're gonna try to get 100 wins on the season because they're currently at 98 wins.
yes. It's a division game. They will. They will.
I honestly, I think all you guys really need is one win. Two would definitely
I, th-
secure it.
I think so too. But
Just
the Rays have had our number relatively all season,
because I
so
mean,
I'm nervous.
the Red Sox would have to sweep their series, and
Which is
so
very possible.
and so would the Mariners. I think the Blue Jays are out of it at this point. I just don't see the Blue Jays.
They're only 3 games behind. If we lose 3 and the Blue Jays win 3,
the The Blue Jays, first of all, they need
or one
now.
game out of the second team.
I understand that, but they need the Red Sox to lose as well, and
Yeah.
they need the Mariners to lose as well.
They
That's a
need them to
lot.
lose one game.
That's a lot. But that's a lot to work in their favor.
Yeah, I agree. That's why we
So
needed to win yesterday, but we didn't.
back
I
for
think if
this.
we would have swept, we would have been 3 games up or 4 because the Sox lost.
If you guys swept them, I think all you would have needed is one win with Tampa, and you would have been fine.
Yeah.
But honestly, yeah, it would have just depended on how the Red Sox and the Mariners finished. I can't believe that the Red Sox lost 2 out of 3 to Baltimore. That's atrocious. I mean, look, the Yankees did get swept by the Orioles just a couple of weeks ago. So I mean, these things
Can't say
do
nothing.
happen.
Can't talk shit.
So, but who would have thought that the Orioles, out of all teams, would have played spoiler a little bit?
Hey, man. It goes to show the AL East sucks, but if they really want to spoil, they can. I'm
But
hoping that this confidence rides its way through the rest of the weekend and we find a way to do what we need to do, because if we can get into the postseason the way that our bullpen is finally healthy, I really do think we can make some noise in the playoffs. I really do.
the bats just got to show up, and with what it's been recently, they have been. So
Yeah.
especially Stanton and Judge, they've just been on another level.
Bro, they're like fucking the Bash brothers back in Oakland, bro. The McGuire and Jose Canseco shit. They both are almost at 40 home runs for the year. It's crazy.
I think Judge, he's at 39, right?
Yeah, he hit 2 today. He needs one more for 40.
I think he gets it. I think he gets it.
Oh my God, Joe Burrow, 31-yard touchdown pass to fucking CJ Uzma.
He's got 2 touchdowns tonight.
Yep, 8 minutes, 59 seconds to go. God willing, McPherson makes this field goal or this extra point. It will be 21-21, and Trevor Lawrence will get the ball back.
I'm mad. I'm mad. I'm sad because Jamar Chase is one of my wide receivers on my fantasy team. And
He's got 12 points.
I need him
Hey,
to
it's
get
double
these
digits,
touchdowns.
bro. I need touchdowns too, bro. I have him too.
What's a stat line?
He has 6 receptions for 77 yards. He's got 13 points.
That's not bad. I'll take that. Okay.
Yeah, he's got 9 targets, and one of his catches was a 44-yard pass.
Yeah, he had one reception earlier, but it got called back because he pushed off. He had a pass interference.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, he got me 13 points. If he get me 15, maybe 20, I'm not gonna sit here and say shit. But I'm hoping Jacksonville goes down and scores, and you Hail Mary that bitch to Jamar Chase.
What's the score? 21-14?
21-21.
Oh, it's 21-21. Oh, I
They
thought
just
they were
tied it. Yeah. They just tied
okay.
it. So Trevor gets the ball back. Both teams have 2 timeouts with 9 minutes to go, or 8 minutes 59 seconds, whatever.
Oh, they're both gonna get the ball back. Well, I mean, Jacksonville will get the ball. They have the ball.
I need Jacksonville just to get a field goal, so it forces Joey to have to throw the ball.
I think Jacksonville gets last possession.
We'll see what happens. I don't care about the damn outcome of this game. I just literally need Jamar Chase to score.
I just need the fantasy points at this point. That's all I need.
Exactly. I will take it. But before we get wrapped up in damn fantasy, guys, that's going to wrap up tonight's episode. It's 11 o'clock on our side. Phenomenal content today. Kyle, as always, appreciate you for doing everything that you do, guys. We're at 219 total subscribers. If you like the content, please like the videos. Obviously, we're going to be breaking these down into our separate segments over the next couple of hours. If you like what we talk about and you're feeling a vibe, please subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and you'll be notified of all the videos that we're going to be dropping over the next couple of months, obviously for the foreseeable future. And we can't wait for freaking week 4 in the NFL. The NBA is 3 weeks away, less than 3 weeks. And postseason baseball is right around the corner. We're talking less than a week for November time to start or October baseball to start realistically. So it's going to be a hot topic coming up within the next month or so. I mean, we're going to have the World Series, the NBA kicking off midway through the NFL season in the next couple of weeks. So, bro, I'm hyped. I'm ready for this shit. This is what we've been waiting for months.
I know, and everything's back like in order, just because last year was so thrown off because of COVID. But everything's really kind of in line here. It's kind of back to the way things were. And I mean, it's setting up for just a phenomenal stretch for the next couple of months. I mean, it's like you said, NBA starting in a couple of weeks. The drama's already kind of starting around some of the teams already. Um, the NFL is full in swing, and baseball is just, there's nothing better than playoff baseball. I love it. So
Hell no.
I'm
Hey,
looking forward.
since we talk about NBA drama, and since we did this last night, we kind of just closed it out. We're not going to make a full conversation about this,
Oh God.
but an update for those of you that are unaware of the situation going on in Philly. Ben Simmons today stated, "I will not play for the Sixers, and I will forego my $33 million deal or my $33 million this season until I get traded." Now, I'm no lawyer or NBA agent, but I'm pretty sure nobody wants to pass up on $33 million. And I don't know necessarily if Philadelphia gets to save the 33 completely, but I'm almost positive if Ben is getting fined every day, that's fines to the team, meaning they're making that money back. So I'm thinking, I think he just literally gave Philadelphia all of the leverage to say, well, if you get no value, and you're going to save us $33 million, I'm not trading you. In my opinion, that's what it just, I think Ben threw a tantrum and put his foot in his mouth like most children do. And I think he literally just gave Philadelphia the entire leverage.
It's like I said the other day. I got 3 teams for him: Detroit, Sacramento, and Cleveland. One of those 3 teams better get him. And you know what? At this point, he deserves it.
Being a drama queen, bro.
He's making it about him, and that's really the thing. I'm just like, I'm sick of it. I'm
Did
done
you
with
hear
it.
Joel's comments today at Media Day or whatever?
Yeah.
He was like,
Yeah.
I'm surprised that Ben's acting the way that he's acting. Guys, I'm paraphrasing. Of course, I don't have the quote in front of me. We built the team around Ben. We signed Al Horford. We got rid of Jimmy Butler, even though I really do think that we should have kept Jimmy, all for the sake of Ben. So for Ben to be acting the way that he is, it's kind of shocking. Obviously, we already know last week or earlier this week, Ben declined his teammates to come and visit him. And then Ben demanded that he wanted this trade earlier in the offseason. And this has just been an absolute snowball of bullshit pretty much the entire offseason for the NBA, in which both sides haven't even moved. I mean, Ben wants the trade. Philly's not willing to move him for anything less than what they've been asking for. And now Ben basically just said, well, I'm not going to play for you until you trade me, even if that means I don't get paid.
This season hasn't
I'm
even
happy
started.
we did the same thing at the same time, bro. We were just like, really, bro? Like, that
The
doesn't really bode well for you.
I mean, training camp just started. The season hasn't even started yet, and there's already this much drama already. I'm just like, bro, like what, what? Like this is like it's so stupid. Like, yeah, like exactly. Like if Ben is so mad or so butthurt about the situation, just do what you want. You want to sit out, fine. But honestly, they might
You
play.
ain't gonna get that
They
back,
might
bro.
they might play better without him.
Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, it's too bad they got rid of Jimmy because I think kept Jimmy and got rid of Ben. I think they would have been.
That would have been lit, bro. Or if they would have got Harden for Ben,
That's
he
what
would
was
have
tough.
been on a dumpster fire in Houston.
Oh, yeah, he'd be there right there with John Wall too.
John Wall's gonna get traded though. They like John Wall. They don't like James Harden, even though they gave him to the probably one of the best teams in the league. But anyway, like I said, guys, that's wrapping it up. I just wanted to give a funny little update just because I found that to be absolutely hysterical. And I sent it to Kyle. I was literally in the middle of work laughing my whole ass off, reading that saying, I don't think the kid realized what he just did. And I say
I
kid like I'm
I
massively older than him.
I will start a petition. I might start 3. Get Ben to the 3 teams that I suggested, and get Colin Sexton, De'Aaron Fox, excuse me, out of the situations that they are in, and get them on a team like Philly. You add De'Aaron Fox or Colin Sexton to a team like that, the team's gonna go places. If I had to pick between one or the other, I would say De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox, nice.
Beast, little lefty beast too.
Mm-hmm. He was
But
dunking on
Kyle,
it. He was dunking on people
Kyle,
last year, bro. Dunking.
shit, that man was on a mission. Kyle, that wraps it up for me. You got anything rest for the people out in the audience?
I got nothing. I think you pretty much said it.
All right, well,
So,
guys, that's gonna wrap it up for the week. Obviously, we'll be posting our content in our next videos over the next couple of hours, and we'll be posting again Sunday night. We're gonna figure out what we're gonna do. We obviously know that Sunday night game is a personal game for Kyle, but a big, obviously, media night in general, like a big game for everybody. So, obviously, content will come out Monday. We just don't know how we're gonna record it, but just believe we're gonna get something out there for you guys.
I think more than likely we'll probably just record it as the game's going on.
Hopefully not.
I want to. I'll watch the start of it, but once the game gets going on, we'll start recording. I
We'll
gotta
play it
see.
by ear.
I gotta see like the show that goes on
What
before.
Patriot you're gonna get? Are you gonna get a close game, or are you gonna get a Tom blowing him out?
It's like I said, if the Patriots can't score, this could be a blowout, bro.
We'll
This could
let
be a
Sunday
blowout.
play out the way that it is, guys.
Exactly.
You guys have a great night and a great weekend. We'll be back again on Monday. And talk to you soon.
Yep. See you guys later.